You are listening to the Two and Out CFL Podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL Podcast.
He's got it! Oh, baby!
Every week, Travis Currah.
That's Grey Cup me, which is a different person.
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Oh, nearly intercepted, it is! And it's over!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. It's Travis Currah and Brazilian Ty. That mustache looks right at home. This episode of Two and Out brought to you by AMA, where if they didn't bail me out, probably wouldn't have a show today.
When you put that in the group chat, it was like, you're only doing an Ask Me Anything for 10 minutes. I don't know what's happening. And then I went to ask you a question and nothing.
Well, they told me it was going to be 2 hours. 10 minutes later,
I would have got off the hook. I wouldn't have had to record today. I would have already been at volleyball.
I guess I should just bury a wire coat hanger in the snow in the winter, and then I'll always have a way in.
I don't remember your truck having power locks.
It doesn't.
How did you lock your keys in there then?
I was on the phone with my wife, distracted.
So it's Taylor's phone. Say no more. That's all we need.
This episode of Two and Out is actually brought to you by Edmonton Public Schools.
Get ready to take the guesswork out of choosing a school. Go to Edmonton Public Schools Open House. Meet the staff and ask your questions to learn about their schools and programs. Explore your options and find the school that feels right. Find event dates and learn how to make the most out of your visit at openhouse.epsb.ca. Know before you go and feel confident and excited when you get there.
All right, Ty, free agency starts on Tuesday. Well, let's face it, free agency is probably already underway. With all of the talk that's happened this week, it feels like it's almost all going to be decided by the time free agency rolls around next week. But I think the lead story right now is what's going on in Montreal with that ownership situation, because that has really just affected everything else regarding the team right now.
Machocha's handcuffed.
Man, I know that maybe there's a lot of sensationalism rolling around here. Like, I don't know if they're actually in danger of, folding or whatever it is, but it does appear that maybe they're in the situation of looking for another buyer, which we were here just a few seasons ago. And this, if you believe some of the reporters that follow the league, kind of a stain on Randy Ambrosie a little bit here, because the league took control of the Alouettes. They led the charge on finding the new owners and chose these guys, basically. It looked like there was a ownership group locally and based in Montreal. From the outside looking in, to me, that looked like the no-brainer choice. But they went with Spiegel and Stern. Spiegel passes away, unfortunate situation there. The pandemic, so he didn't even get to see the team that he bought play.
Yeah. And
it's controlled by the estate, really, and Stern. It's just a mess right now. They don't have a president.
It's all legalities and red tape and stuff. And, they had all this momentum in these last two seasons with Trevor Harris and guys like Geno Lewis and Jake Winicky, and William Stanback was back and healthy for the playoffs. And, there's this push where you want to sign those guys and keep them together because you have a chance to get to the Grey Cup. No team in the East is super strong. You want to keep those guys together. They produced for you in the past. And Geno's gone. Touchdown Jake is gone. Trevor Harris is probably gone.
This even goes back to, I think, VA and Kahari.
Yeah, that doesn't help either.
It's just kind of trended downwards. And I know they played strong football at the end of last season with Trevor Harris, but they got there with Kahari and VA, and Now they're here. Now I understand Machoch is there, and he probably wanted his guy as the head coach, and Jason Moss is that guy. But you're right. Like the stars that they've lost, the starting quarterback, Geno Lewis, top 1, top 2 receiver in the CFL, Jake Winicki, and I know he had it down 2022, but some players that we've come to know and they've produced in Montreal, and we don't know what the negotiations looked like, if they really were even able to offer them significant money like the other teams have been able to do and are able to do. But it's just a bad luck with how quiet things are in Montreal. It's not a good time to be on the lookout for a new owner.
and people are going to call that this Bush League and all that stuff. The NHL has gone through with the Coyotes and the Dallas Stars at one point. The NFL has had lead. Like it's something that happens because stuff gets tied up in legalities, and you don't want to lose a team if you got to keep it afloat. But I mean, those players aren't going to be able to get the money.
Yeah,
you're not going, especially on a league run team. You saw this in the NHL, especially with Dallas. I think it was, they were lowballing guys. They weren't lowballs. They were just what they could make sense, because you can't give them that extra $3 million.
Yeah.
Right, when you're a league run team, it's just like, wow, kind of looks bad whether they can go out in free agency and get it, and because the league doesn't want to run a huge tab there. They just kind of want to be at the salary floor.
I'm guessing there's going to be a few additions that we talk about here that by Tuesday could change, and they could actually sign a paper with another team, but that's okay. It does appear that Jake Winicki and Trevor Harris are going to go to Saskatchewan, and all of a sudden there's a little bit more, I think, with these few signings of an optimistic feeling in Saskatchewan, at least a little bit more than about a month ago.
For some.
And Trevor Harris isn't the most, I would say, exciting quarterback in the CFL, but he's a pretty accurate guy. He can get the ball off quickly, which would help an offensive line that may just struggle. I mean, you want
an offensive line that is red light Rasico.
You want to see, great reference there. You want to see more 6s than 3s, obviously, with Trevor Harris leading the charge there.
Well, with Moss gone.
Yeah. I'm a bit surprised that the money that the Saskatchewan's going to pay him, he's getting bowl money. He's getting $500,000 a season, and I'm kind of surprised that the money floating around overall this free agency period already.
The Trevor Harris money isn't what worries me. It's the money they paid somebody else to be the top paid American defensive player in the CFL.
Anthony Lanier, a $250,000 contract. Good for him for getting
great.
paid.
That's great. Like, good for him. I'm not faulting him as it's not his fault that they offered it. Like, you sign it. It's Sean Horkoff signing that $5.5 million deal and people hating him. Well, it's not his fault. But I don't know if that's the right move. And you give that money to Harris. Don't know what Winicki's coming in at yet. I don't think anything's been kind of leaked there.
Yeah.
The O-line hasn't really been addressed. Now, maybe they improve over last year and they don't have to make a bunch of changes, but I mean, it was so bad that I see it as BC's offensive line 2 years ago, where it needs almost a complete overhaul.
I think Harris is, I think, would help with that. Riley would hold onto the ball longer to let the deep routes develop, and Fajardo would hold onto the ball too long too. I think that'll help. I mean, Anthony Lanier, he's only played 22 games in the CFL, 11 last year. In those 11 games, though, he did have 8 sacks. He did force 2 fumbles. So there's a lot riding, I think, on him staying healthy, though. The concussion issues that lingered last year, and of course those things linger, and you don't want to see that happen more to any other guy. But man, I was surprised with the big money there, and that's going to help a guy like Pete Robertson, who was on fire defensive end for the Riders last year.
Like when he was at the top of the league in sacks, it was like, who?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
He got hurt.
And then,
the Marino thing happens. And
that defensive line went, like, both sides of the line were just decimated at one point. It was like, I mean, what are we even doing? Like, it hurt to watch some nights.
They were just unable to get any pressure and stop the pressure. That's what it came down to. Now, Darius Sirocco looks to be headed to Saskatchewan, the young offensive lineman, which I think is a pretty good ad for the Riders. He was drafted in the first round in 2018 by the Ticats. He ended up being their nomination for the most outstanding rookie, and he was in Ottawa last year. That's a pretty good addition to the offensive line for the Riders. Now, we're going to see here, Dan Clark hasn't been extended a contract offer yet. They both play center. Is Sirocco the replacement, or are they both going to find a spot on the O-line next year? They've brought in...
Clark didn't start out as a center, though.
Yeah, so
right? He had to move there, didn't he?
I thought he was the center from the beginning, but we'll see what kind of shuffling they make happen in Saskatchewan, or if he's going to be back at all.
If they feel like Sirocco can just take a spot and make a little less money than having to pay a vet like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you want to keep him around? Veteran leadership and all that stuff you hear about in the room.
Yeah. They bring in Eric Lofton, who was a practice roster body for the Bombers last year on the offensive line, and Stephen Banks, defensive lineman with the Stampeders last year, who was kind of a rotational guy as well. So the Riders have been pretty busy.
And anytime you can sign somebody away from Calgary, it usually turns out well for a season or two at least.
Yeah. Now, the Riders also see Cody Fajardo go to Montreal, and which is interesting because a lot
Jason Moss is there.
A lot of the talk in Regina was that maybe these two don't really see eye to eye.
Yeah.
And I mean,
they got into it a few times on the sidelines, like I like to see.
Yeah.
Like both competitive, they both like they're going to argue about stuff what you want. You don't want just a yes guy in either position. But it did make it seem like just the lack of success the offense had. Moss doesn't like to run the ball. I mean, it just didn't give Cody any help.
I mean, the Owls could have probably made a lowball offer to get Dane Evans off of the Tiger Cats.
Why though?
So they had what's going to happen there? Like, are they just going to straight up have to release him and then pick him up for nothing? Some team in the CFL, that's a
somebody with a bona fide starter.
Yeah,
you're not putting him in your number one.
Yeah, and it's clear that the decision to put Fajardo on the bench late last season for the Riders was not Jason Moss's call. Then,
no.
Right?
No, I'm sure that was Dickinson's call, and the way Dickinson handled it was embarrassing as well. It was bad look for everybody. But yeah, with Fajardo reportedly going to, or that's kind of what everybody's guessing, really.
Yeah.
Going, I mean, it makes it seem like the relationship between him and Moss is good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, will Moss be the OC as well?
He probably is going to pull double duty.
Double duty. Yeah. I mean, and they'll do that because it'll save them some money, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense. And I mean, they've got the familiarity. You don't have to go through a huge install with Fajardo as much as you do the other guys. So, I mean, that could help.
The Owls have been quiet on the re-signing front, obviously. Keon Julian Grant, the Canadian, is back, and so's Chandler Worthy, who had a breakout last year on special teams. Quickly, Calgary has been quiet as well. What's really standing out is some of the losses, but we do see this with Calgary every few years. They got these star players, and they go away. Now, Darnell Sankey was one of them. I don't know if he's going to be back in Saskatchewan, so it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. Sankey was a Stampeder, plays in Saskatchewan last year. They've re-signed Larry Dean in Saskatchewan, so we're going to see where Jameer Thurman goes this year. It appears that he may be going to Hamilton. That is quite the addition to that Tiger Cats defense. Will he be the guy in the middle of that defense as Simone Lawrence is a free agent this year? Is he going elsewhere? Is he going to retire? Or are they going to find ways to have both of them in the linebacking core?
I think that's what they want, like especially with hosting this year. They don't want what Saskatchewan got or what happened to Saskatchewan. They don't want to lose guys and have guys go down and not have things to fill in, and then you just have a lost season where you could have the opportunity to win at home. I think the only way you want to lose Simone for nothing is if he retires. You don't want to just let him walk, I don't think.
Yeah.
And if you can find a way to get both of them, Jesus.
I know. Because it does appear the Ticats have lost Jovan Santos Knox, and he'll be going to Ottawa. Calgary, very quiet, but they always are during free agency. It always shows up in training camp, and it's like, where'd this guy come from?
Yeah.
That's just what they do. But the bone crusher, Derek Dennis, broke his leg last year. I think if they made it to the Grey Cup, he probably would have been able to play.
Which is wild.
Yeah, he's back in Calgary for one more ride. He says it's going to be his final season in the CFL. And he was at a high level last year, too.
Why does he have to say that? Because then we have to cheer for Calgary. It just feels dirty.
Ottawa has been quite busy. They've got a pretty strong quarterback tandem locked up. At least I think so. Jeremiah Masoli and Nick Arbuckle. I think that's a pretty good tandem, about as good as you can ask for these days in the CFL.
And it's not like you're going to rely on Arbuckle to do a lot.
Yeah.
Unless Masoli gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I mean, good for short, take a lot of the hits off of Masoli to short yardage and all that stuff. You can trust him, and you can still run stuff out of that. Right. Because you have a guy that can do it. It's not like with Chris Streveler. Yes, Streveler did it, but you're just mainly waiting for him to plunge forward and try to run through the wall, run through all the blocks. Whereas Arbuckle can roll out and do all that other stuff.
Last year, Ottawa overhauled pretty much the entire roster, but big on the offensive line, and they brought in some veterans and changed that whole thing along the line. Well, a big addition here as the Red Blacks signed Drew Desjardins, the former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, ended up going to the NFL. He spent time with the Patriots and the Saints during the season. He's coming back to Canada, and he will be playing with the Ottawa Red Blacks. So that is a big addition along the offensive line for Ottawa. We see that Antoine Pruneau has retired. He's going to be joining the Montreal Carabin as a coach, and they re-signed Tavon Smith, the receiver, and Money Hunter, the DB.
So Pruneau in 6 years will be in Montreal.
Probably. Yeah. Let's talk about Edmonton here, who they're making noise like they always do. Now, shortly after our last episode of the show, AC Leonard got released by the Rough Riders on the defensive line. Another guy that had a tough season in 2022, and he was set to be the highest paid defensive lineman in the Canadian Football League this year. He was due a $40,000 bonus on February 1st. Riders let him go. Shortly after that, look at that. He's in Edmonton. Chris Jones bringing his guys. I think Jones is the guy that converted him from looked like a receiver to a defensive end. Clearly a very athletic guy. But Luchez Purifoy, Ed Gainey, those guys that were balling on the Rough Rider Chris Jones defense, going to be playing on the Edmonton Chris Jones defense. Another rider headed to Edmonton, receiver Kyron Moore, and former Ticat Stephen Dunbar. Very good deep threat with the Tiger Cats is going to Edmonton. And at this moment, it appears it was between Edmonton and Saskatchewan. Gino Lewis might be going to Edmonton. Now, if he does, like, is Taylor Cornelius going to be an MOP candidate here, Ty, or what?
Oh, man. That makes our preview show just a nightmare.
Like Gino Lewis, Dylan Mitchell, Stephen Dunbar, Kyron Moore.
Yeah.
Suddenly, there's a lot of excitement in the receiving corps in Edmonton.
And I have proof. I was talking to Andrew a couple weeks ago, and or maybe when the window opened, and just you get some noise and stuff, I'm like, Edmonton's making the playoffs. Like, they are in this year. Chris Jones he's got the guys he needs on defense, and if he has a good receiver, he'll turn him into a DB that he needs. And they'll be laughing. Like the way that they're going about it, like, they don't have to pay Cornelius a whole crap ton of money. They're able to put some weapons out there for him. The defense, I mean, it's a Chris Jones defense. And yeah, last year was a struggle. We knew that. Everybody knew that coming in. It's a rebuild, and you got to do it on the fly. Really, in the CFL, it's only you can tear down and go through the draft. So, yeah, I honestly believe this gives them that. Like, and I'm thinking like West Division. I'm not thinking crossover.
Well, Jake Ceresna, AC Leonard on the D line, and Jamin Pelly. Now, I believe he declared for the NFL draft, but if he stays in Canada and he's playing D tackle,
yeah.
No,
thank you.
The Elks have built it pretty quickly here, and we kind of knew that would happen with Chris Jones.
And Chris Jones has guys that want to play for him. Like, we all think he's a dick sometimes and everything like that, but some of his players just will run through a brick wall for him.
100%. And it appears that Gino is going to be getting the $300,000, which kind of seems to be the benchmark now for big name receivers. And we were openly wondering if that was going to happen again, like it happened last year with Kenny the King Lawler.
Yeah.
It appears that some reports have seen that he's looking for $1 million over 3 years. I don't think that's going to happen. No. But Gino, to get that kind of money is massive as well, and it appears Edmonton's got the resources to pay him. That'll be big. And man, if he could still go to Saskatchewan, we'll see. But as of this moment, Edmonton in the lead there. For Hamilton, Don Jackson has retired at running back. Explosive runner when he was on the field. A lot of times he was dealing with injuries, though, especially in his Hamilton tenure. So right now, the Tiger Cats are down to Wes Hills and Sean Thomas Erlington for their running backs. So they are in the...
They don't care.
Yeah, that's true. They don't run anyway. I truly believe, though, I would like to see Wes Hills get the shot. Like
20 carries a game.
Yeah, that guy, he could be a wrecker in the East Division, but it appears the Ticats are in the hunt for James Butler, who is a free agent and had a nice year with BC last year. They brought in defensive tackle Casey Sales, who spent last year with Winnipeg. They've re-signed Ted Laurent. They're looking at bringing in Kwaku Boateng, who had a big start to his career in Edmonton, and then he got hurt in Ottawa, and now it looks like he's going to Hamilton. So this news makes me think that they're going to be out on Micah Johnson, and he's going to be available this coming season. That is interesting news. But I mean, these moves here, I really think that the Ticats defense is going to be making a run, and they're going to be tough to beat, especially at home with that Grey Cup coming up at Tim Hortons Field. But I think a new name that's been added to the free agent pool, Cariel Brooks, released by the Ticats, it might be a nice addition for a CFL team this year. Yeah,
I mean, anytime that a DB is a household name, it's for one of two reasons. It's either because they're Nick Marshall-esque or they're good.
Matt Schiltz has re-signed in Hamilton, so we've got Schiltz and Mitchell in black and gold. Now, it looked like they were going to try to make a deal for Dane Evans before free agency. Now, this could bite me in the ass because in the last episode I said, it looks like Trevor Harris is going to stay in Montreal. the next day.
I'm so glad I missed that.
Now, it looked like they were going to try to do something for Evans before free agency. I don't know if that's going to happen now. Do you see him just getting released and then signing on with somebody when there's an injury, or what's going to happen here?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of demand for Dane Evans. So I don't know if there's a trade market for it. If you release him, yeah, you might lose him. But if nobody wants to trade for him, I mean, maybe they just don't want to they just don't want to pay him anything other than money. There's that chance that nobody goes after him, and if you need him, he'll still be there. But then he becomes your McLeod Bethel Thompson with that kind of treatment. Would he want to come back? I don't know if he just cut a guy. It's tough to say. But yeah, his days, I don't know why you bring him. You're not going to have the three of them. I don't think, because Dane's not going to make $75,000.
No.
So I just don't think there's the money there to bring him in. I don't know who would. Like, do you go with a Fajardo and an Evans tandem?
That sounds like playing with fire, man.
I don't know what you like. BC has their quarterback situation, I think, basically figured out. Edmonton, I don't know if you want to throw him into that, or if, like, even Chris Jones, I want to bring him in for that. Saskatchewan with Harris, do you want him backing up Mayer in Calgary? Like, the money too is an issue because he's been a starter. He started games, so I mean,
played in Grey Cups. Yeah,
he's not gonna want to take that huge pay cut to be a backup. I think if nobody takes him and nobody wants to trade for him, I think he kind of waits, and that I don't think that helps him though either.
Let's talk about Winnipeg, where Janarian Grant. I think a lot of people got to know him last year, bringing the ball to the house for the special teams. Nick Dembski, I kind of wondered if this was going to come down to the wire, but he's staying in Winnipeg as well. And they've also re-signed Alden Darby, so he doesn't need to go to Toronto or Hamilton and get traded back. He's going to stay put in Winnipeg. But it does look like Kenny the King Lawler is set to make his return where his career started, to Winnipeg. Now, I don't think that
they can't.
I don't think Walters could give him the $300K plus that Lawler was looking for. Clearly, the selling point is winning. Clearly, the selling point is playing with Zach Collaros, and then he'd be playing alongside Nick Dembski, Dalton Schoen, and himself. So we'll see if there's I think that would be a phenomenal pairing, because when Lawler was in Winnipeg before, we didn't get a full year of, Collaros doing his thing. Mm-hmm. Now we've got that. I think the Winnipeg offense, there's been a shift ever since Buck Pierce took over, ever since Andrew Harris left. They can make you pay with the aerial attack, which we got used to them running it down your throat and beating up teams. Now they can do both. And if they got Lawler and Schoen, that's quite the duo in Winnipeg.
But Kyle Walters knows, like, he's not going to overpay, I don't think, for... Like, I mean, if it's one missing piece and you got the room, then maybe a bit of an overpay. But with the core and everything there, I mean, you got to be able to have some flexibility. And I don't think that he's going to make the same mistake Edmonton did with that $300,000 contract. I just don't see it.
Rasheed Bailey is a pending free agent for Winnipeg. He might be an interesting pickup for somebody. Also, Greg Ellingson. if he's going to continue his CFL career. He still had that chemistry with Collaros to start last year, but I can't see them being able to keep those guys if they're going to be paying Kenny Lawler that money. Toronto Argonauts, I kind of wondered if things were going to fall apart for them this offseason. Like if they were going to have to start Chad Kelly, hey, maybe they're a team that has to go after Dane Evans. Who knows? But McLeod Bethel Thompson.
I mean, it's the same. It's not like you'd have to buy a new place.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. McLeod Bethel Thompson informed the Argos that he's going to play in 2023, and it's the only team that he's interested in playing for. They've also said Andrew Harris is going to come back for one more season.
One more shot. Oh.
In Toronto. But there was an interesting announcement regarding Andrew Harris today. Starting next year, he is going to be the head of football operations for the Vancouver Island Raiders for 5 years. And he's going to be the head coach there starting in 2024. So I have to assume that this is the last time that we see Andrew Harris on the field. He did just play in the Grey Cup against his old Winnipeg Blue Bombers in Regina. What a game it was. They've made some key signings or extensions in Toronto as well, including Curly Gittins Jr., Devaris Daniels, Deshaun Amos, Winton McManus, Boris Beattie, Royce Mechie, and the stereotype of Calgary East continues because it appears that Folarin Arimolade of the Calgary Stampeders is heading to Toronto. And Ty, big money, $240,000 in 2023, including a six-figure signing bonus and $250,000 in 2024. This makes him the highest paid at his position in the CFL. Willie Jefferson, Lorenzo Malden make $200 in hard money. Arimolade, 27 years old, and in the West semifinal, he had 6 tackles, 2 sacks, and 1 forced fumble in that loss to BC. That's a big add and another loss to that Calgary Stampeders defense. But the Argos are going to be happy to have him because they might be losing Enoch Mwamba. Is Mwamba going to play? That's question number 1.
Yeah.
And is he going to stay in Toronto? Question number 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, he got a Grey Cup. I mean, you don't want to be Darryl Waltrip and stick around and not win anything for 9 years, right?
Yeah.
Like, if he wants to go, I think now would be the time. And he can go on his own terms, right? He's not going to end it with an injury. You're healthy. Like, I mean, if this is what you want, now would be the time to do it.
I think signs kind of point to him not coming back since they re-upped Winton McManus.
Yeah.
And they made that trade with the BC Lions. Linebacker Jordan Williams is heading to Toronto for a first-round pick in the 2023 CFL draft. Williams was drafted number 1 overall in 2020, and he had a good season last year. In 32 games, he's had 181 tackles, 12 special teams tackles, 3 forced fumbles, 1 sack, and 1 interception. The Lions are going to go with Ben.
Who is he, Larry Dean?
Ben Hladek and Bo Lacumbo are going to be the starting linebackers in BC. They had a little bit of depth there, so they got themselves a first-round pick. And Toronto is able to get him on the last year of his rookie deal. You know that Williams is going to get a raise after this year.
Well, and the age too. Like, I mean, you look at that Toronto defense. Like, a very large veteran presence.
There is
last year, and even coming into this year.
Yeah. Defensive lineman Josh Banks he signed in BC. But Toronto making some big moves, but might as well talk BC. Josh Banks has signed there. Woody Barron has extended. Vernon Adams Jr. through 2024, and Dominic Davis has signed there as well. So now
I guarantee you, nobody in BC wants Dom Davis starting football games.
Well, is he going to be the leading rushing
touchdowns?
Yeah.
Very, very probable.
Now, maybe there's going to be some landing spots here, like Antonio Pipkin, Michael O'Connor.
Mm-hmm.
They've got some interesting names listed on the roster in BC. Of course, Vernon Adams Jr. is the guy, but how are things going to fall into place after that? Suk Chung has extended in BC, and the Lions have made a very big signing on the offensive line. Michael Couture is going to Vancouver. He was a second-round pick by the Bombers in 2016. He's played in 93 games over 6 seasons with the Bombers. He's from Burnaby, BC. He played at Simon Fraser, so now he's going to be playing in his backyard for the BC Lions, which is good for that offensive line because right now it looks like Joel Figueroa is on his way out.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched briefly on O-lines and how bad one of them was 2 years ago, and now they completely turned it around.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a different, and I mean, Nathan Rourke had a lot to do with that. He's very mobile when he was back there, was able to get rid of the ball quickly at times. So that helps, and they overhauled everything. Losing Figueroa, but being able to get Couture in there, like, I mean,
he's not an offensive tackle, but it'll help.
No, but it'll help, like, to solidify the inside, and you can go out and find a tackle that's better than Tony Washington, more than likely. Man, I'm really mean today. But I mean, they're not having huge losses, right? They're not losing 2-3 guys. It's one guy.
This episode of
you can go out and get that.
Hey, and Gary Peters sticking around in BC as well, so that's big.
He'll have 700 interceptions.
This episode of Two and Out for the Well Endowed podcast by the Edmonton Community Foundation. It explores the impact of passionate people who are working to make Edmonton a strong, vibrant city to live in. The latest episode was episode 140, titled More Than Food. It's all about Aubriana Snow learns how the Edmonton Food Bank goes beyond food to support community members. Edmonton's Food Bank was actually the first one to open in Canada back in 1981. Annually, the food bank distributes about 6 million kilograms of food. It's good that they're there.
We just call it like 12 point whatever
million
pounds.
I mean, it's good that they're there. Unfortunate that it's needed, though, right? In December, the Edmonton Community Foundation provided the food bank with a BIPOC grant to help bring in more options for culturally relevant foods. You can listen to this episode and more at the wellendowedpodcast.com. All right, we still got some questions to address when free agency opens, like where is Ja'Gared Davis going, to help us decide what one half of the Grey Cup will be.
What if he goes to Edmonton?
Wow. I don't think they can pull that off, but that would be something else.
Hey, if we know anything about Chris Jones, that anything is possible.
That's true.
If you don't believe in the salary cap.
We got some interesting names still out there. Tim White wants himself a raise. He had 94 catches for over 1,200 yards last year. Is Sean Lemon going to get a raise? And is he going to get it with the Calgary Stampeders?
Probably, and then they'll trade him.
Darius Pickett from Montreal is available. Darnell Sankey. What's going to happen with him? Cameron Kelly of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Chris Edwards of the Toronto Argonauts. Jamal Roll of the Tiger Cats.
He needs to go back to Edmonton because they're the furthest from the field. The fans are the furthest from the field there, I think, aren't they?
Edwards, yeah, that's true. Micah Johnson, he's going to be 35 by the time next year rolls around.
Still a disruptor in the middle of the defense.
Yeah, Julian Hauser of Hamilton, Greg Ellingson, interesting name that could be out there. Brandon Dandridge, the DB with Ottawa, 26 years old, spent time in the NFL, but he's back and ready to go. And then Joel Figueroa, we mentioned him as well. Yeah, this is an interesting CFL free agency. I don't know if we've ever seen this much, like the calm before the storm, you know, but this is not a calm before the storm.
This is like when the sky starts turning that weird greenish blue, like something's up.
Yeah. Like everyone's going to be
sirens going off. Yeah.
In an hour on free agency. Yeah. Everyone
the NHL did this, and they were like, "You're not allowed to talk about money, not allowed to talk about term and bonuses and stuff like that." And boom, 12 or like whatever time free agency opened on Canada Day that year. Boom, 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 boom. Say, well, this didn't work. It obviously didn't work because everybody knew Lucic was going to Edmonton. It was way too much money for too long a term.
And then Dane Evans will be the John Travolta Pulp Fiction in the empty room, like
where am I? On the toilet still.
Where is everyone? Well, there it is. This episode of Two and Out. You can subscribe on your favorite podcatcher.
Don't review this episode because I don't want to hear about how terrible the audio is. I don't have a mic today.
You can subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube as well. Leave a comment on there. Leave a like. Now, normally this would have come out the day before free agency, but I'm going to be in Jasper celebrating my anniversary and Valentine's Day.
At least don't have to trudge through snow.
Yeah, like, I don't know, man. I feel like March is going to be full of blizzards, isn't it?
I hope not.
I don't trust this.
I'm hoping we stay like plus temperatures out in BC and we get shut down early. I'm home for the Masters. Golf season starts a little bit earlier.
I'm thinking of you, buddy.
All the good stuff.
Good luck. Good luck.
Hey, thoughts and prayers.
We will talk to you in a few weeks. Happy Valentine's Day, Ty.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.